Hello everyone, welcome back. As you can see, we're clearing out the store today because it's Saturday morning and I guess there's nothing better I can think of to do. But I was clearing out the drawer we sort of keep for like spares and repairs of boards, of fuse boards that is. And obviously I've got an old spare RCD module and it got me thinking about the cliche thing a lot of customers say when we go and do a quote or we're suggesting to them about a fuse board upgrade. And like, firstly, fuse board is the most important part of your electrical system. It's the part that will save you in the event of a fire, electrocution, anything like that. It turns off, or should do. And we always hear from customers a lot of the time, which is, well, it's always worked. And I was like, yeah, I sympathise with you there, and I sympathise with the saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But how do you know it actually works? Because it's a simple thing. Like, yes, you've got one of these, and it's got a little test burn on it. But that test burn, all that test burn's doing is just forcing this down. That's all it does. It just keeps the mechanisms of the back functional, really. It's like an idle car. If you keep a car idle for too long, when you start it up again, it won't function as bad. So you just need to turn it over now and again just to keep the engine revving, the parts working how they should do. Because they're made to function. That's the point of them. But the thing is, these trip under. There's not like one type of fault. There's dozens of different types of faults that can occur, and these protect against the vast majority of them. So it protects against a thing called overload, underload, breaking the path of the live current because it thinks you might be holding onto it. Earth faults, neutral faults, breakdown in insulation, damaged parts, ingress protection, i.e. water getting into parts it shouldn't do, loose connections, the list goes on and on and on. So yeah, that's the truth. Like, you have no idea if these actually work unless you have a test done. You actually get an electrician out there and they test. So we've got a big old test kit that we use, and what'll happen is we can run through one. Bear with me a moment. So we've got a charger in the background that's making a lot of noise for no reason. So our test kit runs through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tests as a minimum, bare minimum. And what that tests that this trip will trip under the correct parameters. So it forces a test to run around it to make sure it trips, because these don't just have to turn off. They have to turn off in a certain time. They have a maximum time they can turn off on, of what they deem that anything over that maximum allowance could be life-threatening. Normally they stand for about 40 milliseconds for most tests as the maximum. And trust me, it hurts having an electric shock. I've had a few bad ones over the years. Worst one being, I had own fault, anyone watching, I was an idiot, I was young, I should have tested it, I know. One cable in this hand, one cable in that hand, and the shock went across my hair. And thank God the RCD was working, because 0.03 amp across the hair will kill you. And this was 6 amp, so I was extremely lucky. And the RCD turned off in 18 milliseconds, I think. Bear in mind, I couldn't put my hands down for about 20 minutes. They were just stuck in the air afterwards. So yeah, that in mind, just slightly dismiss the saying that, oh, it's always worked, because that doesn't mean it's always going to work, it's always functional, or it's going to do what it needs to do. So we recommend having a test done. Get EICR done, which is sometimes known as a periodic report. That means the electrician will come out, test your entire property, and give you a list of recommendations. But one thing they will do is they will test the RCD modules to make sure they're functional. Firstly, this is also assuming you have RCD modules. You may have a really old fuse board that doesn't have them, in which case you do need an upgrade. But yeah, also while they're there, a lot of electricians don't do this, but we always recommend it. Ask them to do a thing called a ramp load test. So a ramp test will mean, so these, let me just try and explain it without being too technical. There is a little number, not the big number, the little one. It says 30 MA, stands for 30 milliamps. Okay, that's what it's rated to trip at. Now, the ramp test will basically test it from the beginning, and it will go through the numbers until it trips out. Now, that if it's an old RCD module, what I mean is the number will get closer and closer to the 30 as a limit. So if you test it and it comes out like 27, you can sort of assume that sometime soon that module is going to fully fail, because they're not foolproof. They will eventually break down after a certain period of time, particularly older models or cheaper brands, things like that. So yeah, really what you want that number as low as possible. That means it's sensitive enough that it's just going to operate all the time. And that's basically it. So yeah, just a little more of a moan my part, but RCDs gotta be tested regularly. Get any ICR done on your property. They recommend one doing every 5 years on your property, just to be safe, okay? Because you have no idea, they may fail. Still continue to regularly test your push burn. Meant to do that every 6 months. Please do that, okay? Because if not, it's spring elements in here. If you don't press that burn regularly, these could seize up. And if they seize up, they will just not function when you need it, okay? They're a safety device. They're crucially important. They've got to be tested regularly. Like with your smoke alarms, test them every 6 months. Make sure they're still functional. Because electrical and fire safety, it's not a joke. It really isn't. No, if you trust me, if it goes wrong, it's terrifying. But yeah, do that and get the test on your property. Just get an electrician out there, just to have a look at it, run through it, double check you're all okay. They'll give you a list of recommendations. If it's your own property, the ICR might come back as failed, so not failed, unsatisfactory or satisfactory. So it's either passed or it's failed. If it's your own property and it's failed, personal preference if you do or not. If you need it for an insurance purpose, it has to be, you have to get the remedial work done. But if they come back and failed, it's a cheap, easy fix. It really is. These modules are about £40-50 for a certain brand. Takes about half an hour to swap over and retest, okay? They are crucially important. But yeah, I hope it's been helpful, and I will see you on the next one. All the best.